Welcome back to Curry Creek Farm, and today I'm going to piss off a lot of electricians and wannabe electricians. I'm going to let you guys know what you don't need to have in your tool bags, your toolboxes, or pretty much anywhere on your property. And this is coming from experience. I've been an electrician since 1993, so a couple years. Used to work residential, then I went into the apprenticeship in the IBEW and became a commercial industrial electrician. So here's a selection of tools that I have in my shop, and these are all kept in a toolbox down here because I just save them just to have them, just to kind of remind me of the mistakes that I made. But let's start off with any kind of ratcheting screwdriver. I just don't see a need for it. If you're screwing that much, use a drill, use an impact. But these are kind of outdated. I think so. If you have one of these, and they're heavy too. This is a Klein. It is kind of heavy. It's kind of bulky. And sure, it might be a little bit easier on your wrist, but if you're going to get carpal tunnel, do it like a man. Use a screwdriver and use your wrist. That's what men do. Anyway, I just think that they're too bulky, and I don't know, they're wasted space to me. So that is a no-no. Let's move on to something else. Number two, anything that's just plastic, like this level here. This is a cheap plastic level. If you're a professional, and I'm not saying you do, but I've seen these out there. This was left behind by the previous owner. And the other thing about it too, some of these magnets are on the back side of these levels. They're like a strip, almost like a tape, a magnetic tape. They just kind of adhere to the level. If you're professional, do not carry one of those. Carry one of these that has the rare earth magnets inside. If you're doing conduit, this will stay on a conduit. And notice I didn't say pipe. A little side note, time for a side note. This is pipe. This is black pipe. You can see it even says pipe on there. This is what plumbers use. They use this and copper and PEX and all the other fancy pipe. This is conduit. Wires, conductors go in conduit. Water and gases go in pipe. Oh, also other liquids go in pipe too. All right, next up, let's go to these guys here. These are Greenlee. They're like a wire cutter, and I see these as being useless. If you have really thick cable or wire to cut, in order to get the distance, you have to have it spread open that far. Then you're using two hands. And the leverage is so slight, and it's not very much leverage. So you end up having to use a lot of force to cut a larger cable or conductor. If that's the case, use some actual electrician's loppers, or whatever you want to call them, a rabbit gun. Boys are playing. If you have other conductors to cut, use your lineman pliers. These are effective. They'll do the job, and they have cobwebs on them. But these are effective. They'll work. These aren't too expensive, but they're probably more expensive than these, depending on which brand you buy. But instead of carrying two of them, adding weight, bulk, just put these back in your toolbox at home so they can get dusty, and use your lineman pliers. Next up, any type of wire nut twirling device, whether it's a handheld whirly, you put your wire nut in here, you put the wire nut on the wires, and you crank this. Let's see if I can just use this to crank. Imagine that's a wire nut, and you crank the wire nut on. Now, this works great for like high production type things. I'm not saying it's a never use. I'm just saying that I never use it now. I just use my hand. Like I said, carpal tunnel, got to earn it. These guys here, I have a story about that real quick. The device I was talking about, it's a wire nut twister, and you chuck this up on your drill or your impact, and then you would put the wire nut on, get it started on your wires, and then you would place this. The wire nut fits inside here, like so, and it fits different size wire nuts. And you would spin this with your drill, and it would tighten up your wires. Problem is, I've seen it happen more than once. I was on a job one time. I had an apprentice. We were at a grade school, and he was doing exterior lighting up on a lift, and I was doing other stuff. And he got done with those, so we decided, to turn the breaker on, make sure everything works before we leave. I turned the breaker on, and it tripped. So we went around and looked at stuff, and I hopped on the lift and went up to the light that he had installed, and I pulled the light fixture off the wall. And on the hots, he had literally ran this thing so tight that a conductor poked out the end of the wire nut, and it was touching the metal box. And that was what was causing the short. So I just pulled the wire nut off, hand put a wire nut on there, and rolled it back up in the box, put the fixture back on, turned it back on, and amazingly, the short went away. So next up will be insulated tools. Yeah, I know you're going to say they're for safety. They have a place. They have a place. But I've seen too many guys, all they carry is insulated tools because they think they're going to be working in hot stuff all the time. Whenever possible, and there should be no excuse. I've even seen hospitals do this. If you're going to have to work something hot, especially if it's more like gear, like 480, 277, something that's a little bit more dangerous than just your 120, then you'll want to coordinate with either with the homeowner, the business owner, the hospital owner, whatever kind of owner, coordinate with them. If you got to do it in the middle of the night, if you got to have battery backups or generator backups, when there becomes a point where the work will just require that kind of safety. If you're going into a place, just say a home, and you don't know the breaker's off or on, and you got to change out a light switch, yeah, I mean, that'll work. But if you can, use a tool, use a breaker finder, a circuit finder, and turn off the breaker. It's pretty much that simple. We've got to get more into, and I'm probably the wrong guy to say this, but I've been in this industry so long, I've seen the changes from back when we used to do more of the kind of the cowboy electrician thing where you just go in there, do it live, do it hot, because that was exciting and it was fun. And I'm getting too old for that now. And that's why I think you see a lot of companies and a lot of requirements that they don't do any hot work. And I think that's important because there have been too many accidents and too many deaths to keep this cowboy electrician thing going. This is not the freaking early 90s anymore. This is 2025, and it's time to kind of get serious about your safety. Yeah, you may call me a puss. Believe me, been there, done that. I've been shocked with, the fun voltages, 277, that was not fun. Been temporarily blinded due to an arc flash. That was not fun. So yeah, I'm kind of over the whole getting hurt from electricity and arc blasts and that kind of thing. So safety is important, yes, but you don't need to have your tool bag full of these. And also, the more you have these out in your tool bag, the more wear and tear. I actually have a set at work that I keep in my my tool locker just for instances where I don't have to, but it's just kind of a safety precaution. We have multiple voltages going into cabinets. So you try to lock this out, lock that out, turn this off, you know what I mean? And you test your voltages and make sure, everywhere you have your incoming voltage that you're dead. But just in case, just to have that little barrier of protection, I'll grab a couple of, my Phillips, my standard insulated screwdriver, and just use those. And I also use my voltage tester too. But in a mill, especially when there's been years and years of electricians who aren't licensed and don't have any clue about code and how to do things like that, I better protect myself. So I'm not saying never. I'm just saying keep these in your locker, and they're there in case you need them. So carrying an individual screwdriver for every task, like your Phillips and your flatheads and your thinner flatheads and your thinner flatheads and your square drives, that's a lot of tools to be putting in your pocket, in your toolbox, in your tool bag. That's a lot of weight and a lot of bulk. Instead, I like to use one of these guys here, a multi screwdriver. Obviously, we've all seen these. They're very popular. Everyone makes them these days. This will get you through about 99% of your tasks at work and at home. You get a lot of tools in a smaller package. And I know I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. This replaces pretty much all these. Now, I will say that in certain situations, you will need one of these guys. For instance, there are some breakers where the screws are to hold the conductors in, they are recessed into the breaker. And having something like that screwdriver I just showed is the barrel is too thick to get in there sometimes. So you got to use more of a dedicated screwdriver. That's why these are not a never. I'm just saying they're kind of like the insulated tools. Just kind of keep them in reserve and keep them. You don't need a whole bunch of them. So I'll show you what, I'm not saying you should carry. I'm just showing you what I carry after many, many years of kind of distilling down what I actually use on a day-to-day basis. This is just a I think this is a CLC. This is my home. Where's the brand on there? I think it's CLC. Anyway, this is my home setup. This is not what I take to work. At work, I wear bib overalls and I keep all my tools on my pockets, so I don't carry this at work. I used to carry something like this when I was wiring houses, but not anymore. Too old for that. So this is basically what I use around the house just to get, I'd say again, 99% of the tasks done. Tape measure. I know this is old school. It's a Stanley 25 footer. Everyone kind of makes fun of guys who use these, and I don't really care. I've been using these for years, and I like them. So that's just me. Your mileage may vary. A pencil, a Sharpie, pair of these Klein strippers, my favorite strippers, besides the ones, well, never mind, I won't go there. A Milwaukee, this is the fastback. Yeah, fastback, razor knife. Hard to go wrong with one of those. Some diagonal cutters. These are Klein. I like these ones that are more made for, gosh, what do they call those guys? Rod busters, for guys who do rebar before they pour concrete. These have an angled, let me put this down. So have an angled so you can pry. Also they're also longer handled than the electricians ones, and they have this little kind of a pinky. What do you call that thing? A pinky thing. It's a thing where it goes up and it makes your hand. Anyway, you get the point. It's more comfortable in the hand. Let's just go with that. You've already seen these. Pair on with Klein, Milwaukee. You've already seen this. This is the Lennox multi-bit screwdriver. I love this thing. I have several of these. I've used these for years, and this is my go-to. Over Klein, over Milwaukee. They don't rattle. They're just strong. The grip feels good. They're compact. I don't know. I love them. And a FLIR voltage, non-contact voltage tester. This has a light on the back side. Let's see if my battery's good. Oh, there we go. Light on the back side. Turn it long press to turn it off, and then long press to turn it on. And it does say your 120 volts, and push again, and it does more of a lower voltage. But never usually use the lower voltage. But I find these FLIR ones to be some of the best ones I've carried. This is my first one I ever bought, and I wanted to upgrade. This one didn't break. I just wanted to upgrade because I think they had a newer model, although it looks just like this one. But anyway, excellent voltage tester, and I like the black too. It's kind of sleek. The only problem is if you drop it somewhere, they're hard to find. And I keep some tape, just one roll of tape, and I use 33, which I think it's called Scotch Super 33 tape. This is kind of the industry standard for tape. The cheaper tape is okay for certain applications, but if you really want something to stick, use this. Spend the money, buy a couple rolls of this stuff. If you're a homeowner, it'll last you years. Just a inexpensive Husky hammer on the back here. And then I usually keep some tan wire nuts up in the front here and reds in the back. And this is more for like if I'm carrying some devices or something, you know, some plugs and switches, I'll throw them in there, whatever I'm doing. That's a couple slots here for put a tool there, like a power tool or like a cordless tool. That's about all I carry. So 99% of your electrical projects can be done with these tools that I have in two hands. And you can add the level in there. Of course, the hammer is right down there. That's all you need. So all these extra things, yes, they can belong in your toolbox. You can grab them if you need them. But I've seen guys with just bags just full of stuff, and they're wearing it on their hips, and of course they're younger dudes, and their backs are better, but I'm over that stuff. I'll wear this, like I said, around the house if I need to. But I want to know in the comments what you guys think. Am I being ridiculous here? Am I being stupid? You're going to cuss me out and let me know what I'm carrying I shouldn't carry, or what you carry. I want to know. And if you got any value out of this video, please drop a like and maybe even subscribe. And we will see you guys next time.